Sigma notation. Sigma notation is important because it can be used to calculate the area under a curve. Now before we get into sigma notation, there are some important things that we need to understand. First of all, sigma, which is this symbol right here, represents the sum of all I terms beginning with, in this case, 1. So the bottom number here represents the first term, and the top number here represents the ending term. In this case, the ending term is not specified. It is just represented as n. Now if we were to write this out, it would look something like this. Our first term, 1, plus the next term, 2, plus the next term, 3, plus the next term, 4, all the way up until the nth term. Now, the nth term can be anything. In this case, the nth term, because we have 4 here, the nth term could be 5, it could be 6, 7, 100, and all the way up to infinity. And infinity is a slightly more complicated concept, so we will get into that in another video. But for now, let's apply the knowledge we have into some example questions. The first example question looks pretty similar to the one we just did, except this time we are beginning at 3 instead of 1. And we do have a specified ending term, which is 5. So we will write 3 plus 4 plus 5. And again, we end at 5 because our nth term here is 5. This would probably get you the answer 12, and if you don't get 12, then you should probably calculate it again. Now let's get into a slightly more complicated one. This time our equation is I squared, but it's only a little bit more difficult, and we'll get into it right now with starting with identifying the first term. In this case, it is 2. The ending term is 6. So we have 2 squared plus 3 squared plus 4 squared plus 5 squared plus 6 squared. And that should give you the answer 90. Now let's get even more complicated than that. This time we have a polynomial here, but the concept is still the same. We have our first term, which would be 4, and our ending term 7. Now let's write this out. 4 squared plus 3 times 4 minus 2. So you cannot forget about there's an I here. It's easy to miss, but you have to plug into this I and this I. So in this first term would look something like this, plus the second term, which would be 5 squared plus 3 times 5 minus 2. Now we get into the third term, which would be 6 squared plus 3 times 6 minus 2. And then to our last term, which would be 7 squared plus 3 times 7 minus 2. If you do the calculation correctly, it should get you the answer 184. Now in the next video, I'm going to talk about summation properties, which make this process right here a whole lot easier for you guys.